Hello and welcome to the RGDS podcast. It's Paul Driscoll here, aka the Drisk, and joining me today is my pixelated partner, the king of retro. Yes, it is Gordon King, aka Kingy. How are you, matey? How's things?
Hello, mate. Hello, everyone. Yeah, I'm good, thank you. It's been a little while since I've joined you in an episode.
Yeah,
now,
it has.
I've missed you.
Way. Yeah, same here.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's great with Alistair on board.
Of course,
giving us that a little bit of breaks, isn't it, between podcasts, which is wonderful. And he's really good as well. Yeah, so if you've seen with the title, this is 6 interesting hidden platform gems on the Amiga. I'm sure we'll come up with a snappier title than that, but that's essentially what it is. But before we begin with the show itself, let's get into what we've been up to retro-wise. So over to you, Kingy, good sir. What have you been up to?
I have just made time to catch up with a good number of your videos because they've been mounting up, and I hate when a friend of mine is taking time to make curated lists on YouTube.
Yeah.
So, it's like, people do ask you, have you watched it? And you could say yeah, just to make them feel good. But if I say yeah, sometimes it means yes, I'm going to watch it. But no, I've made point a note of wanting to watch a number of years. So just recently, I really enjoyed your the Sega Mega Drive Top 50 one. That was really good. Many of the games I agreed with, some
you didn't.
Disagreed with. Too many shooters for my liking, but that's one of the system's strong points. I get that, that's probably why it wasn't my weapon of choice. But there was some real hidden gems that I didn't know about as well. So I love Discovery as much as just it was. What was good about that type of video is you're only spending the maximum of say 2 minutes on every game. Maybe some that you really want to delve in and wax lyrical a little bit more. Maybe you were generous and give it for 3 minutes, But overall, it's a half an hour watch. So it's micro viewing in that way, isn't it?
Yeah, I've tried to do
really
that and make it a good reference point.
Mm-hmm.
They've certainly been quite popular with them all, and like the Master System one that I did, and the Top 100 arcade racers, and of course this one as well, which was the inspiration for this show, was the top 100, or technically 101 Amiga platform games, because yes, there is that. There's far more than that number. It's insane, isn't it, how many games you get on the platform?
Oh, it's really incredible. So
yeah.
Like anything, you look at any of the comments and people will say, what about this game, what about that game? But as you're very clear at the start of these things, these are your choice games that you like in your top whatever, and not some, predictable list that the industry always seems to favour.
To go with, exactly.
Yeah.
Although Garen's still not talking to me that I didn't put Truxton on the Mega Drive top 50. Personally, I find it too hard. I'm too wimpy for Truxton or Tatsujin.
I do like a shooter, but I don't play a lot of them. But the trouble is that if someone says, have you played Truxton, I don't know much Truxtons from my Einhander or bloody all the other ones on the list. The names are just generic enough.
Yeah.
I don't recall them and go, what was that one again? What happens in it? Oh, you shoot aliens. Aliens! All right, that's just the same as the other one. I know I'm doing shoot 'em ups a complete disservice. I can imagine
you could do that the same with platformers, couldn't you? Really?
Yeah, absolutely. If you're into them big still, then that's your thing, that's your jam, and that's great.
Yeah.
And I only need a few of them in my collection, in a top 50 or whatever, to say, yeah, this one deserves to be there if I can remember its name. And that's me got my shooter fix. Whereas some people, I can imagine Garden doing it, and probably about 90% of all the top 50 games, from would be shooters, because that's what he loves.
Oh yeah, the Mega Drive has an amazing shoot 'em up library. So yeah, in fact, there were so many more that I could have included, but I did try to give some semblance of spreading it out a little bit. But so anything else you've been up to retro-wise apart from
not too much really? Truth be told, I'm going away on holiday in a couple of weeks' time, so I've just been that busy.
Oh, nice.
It's because I've not been away since the whole lockdown nonsense, right? So basically, either the summer clothes for going away, because I don't even recall having a summer here in the last 5 years worthy of wearing anything summery, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's either looking tattered or I've been eating too many pies and drinking too many beers that they don't fit. So,
Shrunk in the wash, that's what it is. Yeah,
yeah, they've been shrunk in the wash. So to be honest, I've been spending my weekends and my free time just getting stuff ready for going abroad.
Oh, nice.
So
yeah, I haven't been abroad for years.
Yeah, I think the last time you were in Pompeii, were you not? The last time you were abroad?
Yeah, probably, but that was like the cruise. Yeah, my God, that was
Aye, so that's
decade ago.
2018.
Yeah,
2018.
like yeah, almost a decade ago.
Wow.
Mad. No, well, for me, what have I been up to? So I've been buying those lovely little mini cades because I quite like them, and I blame Alistair. He's costing us a fortune by spotting things.
Some boy.
And I ended up buying 2 Astro Cities. You know, there's the horizontal one, which has like Golden Axe and loads of classics on there, and the Wonder Boy games, and really, really good. And there's also the vertical Astro City, the Astro City V, that's got, well, Truxton 1 and 2, and it's got like a VV and Bat Rider. I mean, really good shooters. So my Astro City V has arrived, but unfortunately, and I must admit, I wavered a little bit when I ordered the Astro City horizontal, because like Alistair said, oh, it's 50% off, and then I looked, it was like limited run, and I was like, oh, I've heard so many bad stories about limited run, but surely they can't screw it up, I thought, because it's like made, isn't it? I know the delays is often because they like manufacture them and have to wait, yeah. But these said it was ready in the warehouse, so not only is there a long delay, but it's allegedly they attempted to deliver on Wednesday, the 12th, and apparently they tried it twice at exactly the same time, so that was interesting. So already I presume I've had 2 failed attempts based on their crazy logic, but yeah, I mean, I was there all day, they clearly didn't try, but I've just realised there's no way of contacting them, so I've got no idea when they're going to reattempt, or if they're going to reattempt. That's
frustrating.
Honestly, I'm fast realising why limited run gets so much hatred. I think they're terrible from the little exposure I've had. They really don't care. Like, there's no way to communicate to them or anything.
And not even a number of the courier company then either.
No, I mean, you go on this, I've never heard of the courier, and you go on and you can see the tracking bogus information, but then when you go like separately go into like, well, can I go onto their website? It's about, the courier website, it's about if you want to send parcels. Well, I don't want to send parcels. I want to ask you about this one. And I go on Twitter to Limited Run, and they haven't even bothered to respond. So, yeah. So my advice to people, don't use Limited Run. They are clearly a company that don't care about the customer. So, which is what I've heard again and again, to be fair. So it's not just me. I guess if that's any solace, is it's not personal, they're just generally crap. Well, I hope so, but I mean, I'm a working boy, so I need to know when they're going to reattempt, else I won't be here. I genuinely won't be here.
It's a pointless one, but I'm seeing this more and more with any courier company, just the false photographs that say it's been delivered and they put in a safe place. It's not there. Yeah. And it's just to keep their statistics, and because they're tracked. And then because they'll get, deducted their earnings or whatever the agreement is, they have to deliver so many amount in a day, or they don't get paid, or whatever the agreement is, and it just keeps you guessing.
Oh, the amount of times when I've attempted to deliver, I've seen with other couriers as well. But whereas with other, like when that happens, at least it's clearly communicated when they're going to retry. So even though they're cheeky buggers and they're clearly doing it to, so they don't get penalised. It's the modern world we live in, and unfortunately. But in happier news, did you notice on Indie Retro News, Retro Rick name appeared with him apparently working on a Wardner port, and with even video footage of his progress so far. So it did look quite good. I mean, it's still Wardner, but it looks like he's done a good job. Yeah,
he's working really hard on it, so good for him. It's nice
fair enough. I just hope he sticks the course, because I know what it's like with video game development. It's so easy to you're all excited and bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and then it starts eating away, and then it becomes yet another project that goes on the floor, isn't it? Along with cutting room floor. I've had many of those myself, so I hope he sticks the course.
That's including wallpaper in your house, Paul. You've even got the rolls there just lying in the bags in the hallway.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely reverberate around the bush. That's my my way. But anyway, shall we go on to the main show itself?
Yeah, let's do this.
Right, okay. So, as we alluded to earlier, recently I've been doing like some top lists, like curated lists of what I consider the best in different parts. And one of the first ones I did was the top 100 Amiga platform games. And as we were like racking our brains of a topic to do, I said to Kingy, what about you have a quick look through the top 100 platform games, but choose one that you haven't played before, but you like the look of. That was the remit, wasn't it, Kingy?
Yeah.
And then you chose 6 games. One of them, just for awareness, I asked you to swap because one of the games you chose was Alien Fish Finger, which is a fantastic game, but we have covered it with Rick and John, I believe, way back when. So I thought, let's make it sure it's fresh to our listeners as well. So we've chosen 6 and
7. We've got 7.
We've got 7. I can't count. We've got 7,
yeah.
And it's hopefully people will enjoy it in the spirit that it's intended, which is just lesser known Amiga platform games that are well worthy of a play, isn't it? And whilst I think we've got to be mindful that these are Euro platformers, they're not Japanese platformers, so they don't necessarily have the polish of your Japanese counterparts like on your SNES and Mega Drive. There's a certain charm to them, and there's a certain maybe it's because I grew up so heavily on the Amiga, but I have I'm drawn nostalgically to games of this ilk. That not fully polished. I mean, what about you? I mean, what's your... Because I guess you had far more exposure to the SNES and things like that than myself.
Oh, yeah, but obviously, owning the Amiga, I didn't get a SNES until my Amiga died. I couldn't afford it, but I always played one, and so I was very much familiar with the polish of Japanese counterparts. But for me, the 16-bit platforming period for me really did begin and lasted a while with the ST and the Amiga, and you've got all the classic games that maybe did come out on the consoles like James Pond 2, things like that, but to me they will always be Amiga games, you're ranging through all the classic games from BC Kid, Rick Dangerous, you name it. There's just so many, isn't there? It's just endless.
And
Kid Gloves.
Oh, so many great ones, yeah. Which is what I really enjoyed with that top 100 list. We'll put it in the show notes if people have not seen the video, because there is so many unique games that only were on the Amiga that they still hold up. And I was quite impressed with some of these games, how well they held up today for me personally. Some not so much, but we'll see how we go. So I think really interesting choices, even though you didn't choose the busty babe duo of Elvira and Entity, which I was really rooting for. It was a bouncing duo I was hoping for, but it's a good list. But should we make a start with the games then?
Yeah, let's go into the games.
Okay, so as you heard with that jaunty little tune, the first game is Traps and Treasures. This came out in 1992 by Chrysalis and developed by Nightingale, and done by the same team that did Rolling Ronny, which is another platformer game we might mention. And might mention. And I'll pass it to you to describe, because I've done a lot of talking. So do you want to describe the game to our listeners?
Sure. Well, I quite enjoy this game because it's not just a platform; it's also a swimming game as well. Whereas normally in a lot of platforming games, you go, oh no, not an underwater level, you know, like on Donkey Kong Country, I'm not looking at you know what I mean? But I think the fluidity between platforming and the swimming and this works really well, and just shines in terms of an Amiga game. So you play Captain Jeremy Flynn and you're sailing around Tortuga when his bloody compass goes all wonky. I mean, why not always have a backup, never just have the one. So he drifts off course, they reach Redbeard's pirate base on Devil Island, and they get attacked. So all his men are kidnapped, and all their loot, all their booty is distributed all over the pirates' devil, you know, the little islets archipelago that makes up Devil's Island anyway. And so the idea is just to rescue your men and get your treasure back. And that gives a simple premise to what this gorgeous looking platformer is all about. Now, I have not ever even seen any screenshots of this, to be honest, in my life before, so it was a game I never heard of.
It didn't do really well, because originally it was a German developed game, so originally it was released in Germany. It did get re-released in the UK under Chrysalis, but I don't think they gave it enough sort of marketing budget or anything. So, you know, for a lot of people, this will be, I imagine, out of all the ones here, this will be one that I pretty much guarantee vast majority of our listeners will never have heard of. And it's really good, isn't it? It's really, really good platforming, really well designed, great graphics, and quite sort of challenging but really enjoyable gameplay as well.
Yeah, there's I would say there's some Rick Dangerous elements where there'll be, say, spikes that come out from the ground, and you have to be, I mean, it's usual the first time you get killed in them, you just don't know they're there. So there's that kind of frustration that perhaps you wouldn't get that in a modern game now. You would have some kind of indication, like a rumble of the dirt or something like that. But back then, they were still refining the platform genre for the new age, and these were the kind of things you would get in it. But I just love the whole charm of each of the levels. You know, the first one is a good balance, as I said, of swimming and platforming. There's awkward chests to get the treasure out of them. There could be jellyfish or crabs running about or leaping trying to get you, and then you get up to the surface, which then you can leap up to the islands, the different platforming elements there, and there's, you know, just different sort of land creatures that will try and get you there. So there's a lot of avoiding, a lot of things you can't jump on their heads because they're protected with shells and that, so it's kind of try and dodge as much as you can. Your sword's not going to do much good with their hard armour or whatever.
Yeah. It's tough underwater, isn't it? Particularly.
It's got a kind of you always float up the way, so you're always fighting against, I suppose, reverse gravity.
Yeah.
In the game. So you always have to push down and that, but you do get used to it. I didn't find it, I think I would have found it more fiddly on an actual joystick back in the day rather than using a joypad. I think that's more, especially the analog stick, I used that instead of the D-pad to play this game actually. Yeah. And I found it far more controllable underwater just because of the very nature of an analog stick, and swimming under the water is more of an analog style movement.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, I put this quite low in a lot of ways on my list because I put it at number 90, but I did say on the short description that it was partly because I hadn't really played it enough, but I had a feeling it would go up much higher up my list, and definitely after playing it, this would go up much higher on my list. I think it's a fantastic hidden gem. I mean, what about you? I mean, would you put it on your top 100 or?
I think it would. I mean, I don't need to have the nostalgia for it, and I'm limited for an episode. I gave it as much time as I humanly could, but it's a game I could probably spend the entire weekend playing this alone and really getting to grips with the mechanics of the game. I mean, it's just really delightful. I love how you obviously can go into the shops once you collect treasures and spend and get either extra energy, or you can collect tools to aid you in the caves and that, so like rope grappling hook thing where you throw and you can shimmy down, or you can use your tunic as a parachute
yeah,
as well. Just nice touches like that. You can lift and pick up crates to use as stepping stones. So it's not just a standard platformer. There are interactions to be done in the environment to progress, and I really like that as well. So switches to pull to open the trapdoors that then release springs that you can leap to higher levels. It's multi-directional to a certain degree. It's not completely linear. I'm not saying it's... I think probably you are forced in a linear fashion sometimes because you need to get a key or a lever to pull to get through the doors and that. But it's absolutely charming. I love the sprite work in it is really good. There's a feeling of depth to the game. So you've got your foreground platforming, tile set, and there's a lovely, gorgeous layer behind that with where the same layer the doorways are in, but it's darker, and it just gives a feeling of depth to the game as well. It's really
well
lovely.
Done. Yeah, it really is well done. I was surprised. It isn't fondly remembered more by people, even if they discovered it after the fact, because you're right. There's so many nice things. I mean, some of the power ups and things, and there's keys and you get like a magic rope later on, and just lovely with the ghosts and ghouls that you go up against, and in the different theme levels. It's quite a big game as well. It's like almost like 3 hours, which I know sounds nothing in modern worlds, but
decent for back in the day. I think the variety in the levels do give that good sense of progression. You don't feel like you're playing an overly repetitive game. There's new elements added on each level, that it's not just a skin overhaul as well, that the way you interact with the level changes as you move on as well, so it keeps you engaged from start to finish. And I definitely, I've obviously could only get into so many levels ahead, but I was keen then just to quickly, didn't want to spoil it too much, so that's a good sign that when flicking on YouTube to watch some of the further levels, it's like, right, I don't want to overwatch that because I'm coming back to this game. I'm going to be playing this. And really, I think it's a really good choice. From your list.
I think it's a good one. I mean, interestingly, it got middling reviews, run about 75 out of 100 on CU Amiga, 75%. And Amiga Action gave it 70, so I guess quite low, considering lower than I thought. But mostly their complaint was the difficulty, which I get that there is a punishing game, but compared to a lot of Amiga platformers, it's not that punishing, in my opinion. So, I was quite surprised with that.
I didn't overly swear playing this one. I just enjoyed it for what it was.
Well, mostly I was swearing at myself because of my inherent greed to get all the cats and going through.
Well, there's something about this game when you pass a treasure chest. Because it's closed,
and you're a pirate,
thieving pirate. You're really forced to. I need to get that, and some of them. That's where the real trickery is, because they're well guarded by, albeit fixed path, baddies.
Yeah.
But it's still the window through is quite tight, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's it. That's usually when I lost life, it was because of because of that really. But I thought I think it's a lovely little game, and as I say, a lot of these people did the rolling Ronny. I didn't really do a lot else from what I could tell, particularly. But I thought it's a great one to start. So it's this one was really, I wouldn't say new to me because I'd obviously played it and decided for the list, but it was nice. I put a lot of time into this one for the show because I had a little bit longer because of the break, because you're obviously doing the other fantastic show with the Firebird BT. Yeah, I couldn't think. I knew it was Fire. I was going to say Firebrand, but that's the baddie on the. But really, really good. So, any more you want to say on this one before we roll on to the next one?
I suppose kudos to the cool music when you go underwater. So it just have ambient sounds when you're above the surface, but the minute you go under, it dynamically changes and starts playing music. And I quite like that as a touch that the game has some musical elements to it, because it's difficult in Amiga because of the limited sound channels. Sometimes you just get given a game without an in-game tune, but you're splattered with a whole host of sound effects, or you get a game that's got very little sound effects, but it's got music on it. So this gives the balance of some noises, but also a cool tune when you're swimming. So yeah, I quite enjoyed that.
Yeah, no, I agree. Right, okay, so we go on to the next game then. So the next game is Rolling Ronny. This is an interesting one where you play a clown. It's actually using the same... He did appear in another game called Clownorama, but this is a totally different fare where it's like a platforming action. So I'll pass it over to you again to say about this fun little game.
So it's a very colourful, very typical Amiga platformer with the gorgeous gradient of hues to depict kind of that sunset look that I just love in Amiga games. It's a simple effect, but you see, coming from the 8-bit period, right, it was predominantly black backgrounds in games like this, wasn't it? So then when you come to the Amiga and saw not just lovely foreground graphics, but the parallax of gorgeous clouds, or that sky is seen in many a game from Fire and Ice to Shadow of the Beast. You know the type of aesthetics I'm looking at. So immediately the visual appeal was there in the game. And so you play Ronny, Rolling Ronny, not Rolling Johnnies. That's a struggle I have with condoms. He loves running about the town in his roller skates. That's why it's Rolling Ronny. And he's to get to the other end of the town to the bus stop. But the trouble with that is when he gets... I mean...
He's an errand boy, isn't he?
Aye. Yeah. So to earn his bus fare, he needs to run errands. Normally in the process of these jiggly booby blondes. See, we've got some bus in the game for you, Paul.
Yeah, there was some.
Some bucks and blondes where you go into them and could you do me a favour for 20p? It's like, you're sitting there fanar, she's cheap. And, you know, it's normally, you don't know, it's like he's doing drug runs or something. You've just to take a parcel to this address and I'll pay you 20p. It's like, goodness sake. So it pretty much, I've never discovered playing this much backpedaling, going back the way from where I've had the quest that I've seen. I don't think most of them are after the person that you've received the mission from. But it's just one of these games where it's a hustly bustly town, or various towns throughout the city, and you know, sometimes you have to go up to the top of the high rises to get over dead ends, and then come back down again, and just avoid getting hit by all the moving cute looking baddies and flying things throughout the town. I think it has a real charm to it. You obviously get power-ups in the game that you can use as well, that can aid you in your way, like big high super jump or a magnet.
They're interesting ones, isn't it? You got like a super jump, a power sneeze, a stenchalizer, which stinks out all the enemies, a magneto-fluct, and a megahorn. Just so fun. Yeah, they're all the sort of power-ups, But the jump ones are really important, because otherwise
that's the one I tend to always go for, just because, yet again, there's coins everywhere, things falling, other objects to collect. You really need to get your purse up. Or what happens is you get to the end of the level, and it looks like you're going your journey. Like, you know, it's a bit like the Outrun game ending screen. You see the routes if you went, what directions you went, and it's like wah, 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 you didn't have enough cash for the bus, and you have to do that blinking level all over again. So there was a few trial and error moments of thinking you did have enough, because of not having instructions. I was trying to ascertain all the numbers on the bottom of my screen, what one related to what, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
It's not quite as clear. But I think, again, it's another game where the game progresses quite good. You go down to the underground sewers. So what was the point in getting a bus to the sewers? That confused me. Then there's more like orchard-type avenues. And then, I think this one maybe runs the curse of being a wee bit more samey on each of the levels. Maybe some slight differences in the premise. The premise is kind of the same. So it's a bit... just a little bit more limited than Traps and Treasures in that way. But for a game I've never, yet again...
I was surprised you not really played this one.
No, but I was just at the whim you were able to get from Dodgy Dave's market, back in the day, getting all these blank discs filled, and I certainly never came across this one at all, I'm afraid.
Because this was quite heavily advertised. I love the enemies and the characters that you see. It's interesting. After doing the little research, it's very clear that this is done by the same team that did Traps and Treasures. They did it roughly at the same time. I think it's all probably the same engine as well. But he's a great little character, isn't he, with the clown, and just very well drawn. It's like the Traps and Treasures, it's quite a small character, but that adds to the diversity of the gameplay, isn't it? Because
there's a bigger playfield then, because it's a bit more smaller,
Yeah, this was really heavily advertised back in the day. I remember always used to get all these sort of like full colour ads at the end of the magazines and things. This was, Virgin really pushed this quite hard. But it's one that, as much as I love, I probably not given as much time to, until I did the top 100, I hadn't really given it the time it deserved, you know what I mean? And fast become a real favourite of mine. It was number 75 on my top 100, and again, I feel I should have perhaps, having played it even more for this show, I do kind of think maybe it should have crept up a little bit, but it's a great one, isn't it? I love it. It's very, it feels just, I think it is a foreign, I don't know who actually sort of made it, but it's...
Well, you said if the last company was German.
Oh, sorry, it's German, so it'd be German, but it's surprising because it does feel quite English in its design, the location. I think
so.
They were clearly going for that sort of like look with the bowler hatted gent and the busty blonde. But I really enjoyed it. It's definitely one that I want to continue playing through to the end.
The only bit I found was punishing when you did get killed and then you floated up with the balloon again, and you had to wait till it got to the top height before it burst, because I couldn't find a button to burst it earlier. I don't know if it is. And it's like, come on, you're...
Yeah, it's frustrating in that way,
Yeah, creatures then were moving in a position that wasn't of any advantage then, you were at the whim of where you died then and you were respawning and the balloon was moving up, and you're just going to fall on top of a creature because it's out with your control. But, it's a small niggle, you know what I mean? So, and I quite like the bit where you can accept the mission or bargain just to see if you can get more money from the people that are giving you the mission, but I thought it was just quite, it's a bit different, it's its own thing. There's elements to the game that you haven't really played in others, so it's a thumbs up from me for this one, Paul. I think it's
good. I'm glad you enjoyed this one. I was getting a bit worried, like a little with the games. You're like, why the hell are any of these on your top 100? That's what I thought you were going to say.
Yeah, just a little side note. It's like, because I'd not really delved into the Amiga. I'd kind of neglected it for a while, mainly because, I was enjoying playing it on my Raspberry Pi and having Pi Amiga, and that was great. But it's not always convenient sitting at the television in the living room playing it. I just like sitting in the man cave. So I fired up this time round because we downloaded Amiga Vision, which ties in with FSUAE. Put that whole image file in the disk drive, and everything is WHD load on that Amiga Vision thing as well. So I've got a whole WHD load thing that I just fire up. Works great with a 360 controller, and I've had an absolute blast. So because of that, while I neglect and playing a hell of a lot of quality, console games, whether it be on the Mega Drive, whether it be the SNES or anything, you sometimes just forget what an Amiga game is like, and it's not making slight of it, it's just how these games were then. And so you first go back to them and you're like, ooh, and I was tired on my first playthrough. I was shattered when I was just playing them. I went, I'm not gelling with these games. This is going to be a crap episode. I was really crabby with it, and just not. And then I goes, you know what? I'm stopping for the night. My eyes are nipping. I'm clearly just been working hard all week, and I'm tired now. This is not working.
Yeah.
Had a good night's sleep. Came back on it the next day and had an absolute blast playing the game. So it just shows you
being in the right mindset. Yeah, well, definitely.
Being in the right mindset, yeah.
But it is also like, and this is what I often see with people that came from a console background. They don't get when we shout out these games. They're like, because yes, a lot of these Japanese platformers have a different level of polish put on them, and
a huge development teams opposed to a couple of individuals on these.
That's it. This is like just an indie group, but unlike indie games of today, where it's relatively easy to program things for. These were small teams that were really pushing the boundaries of what was capable on the hardware, wasn't it? Really, and I'm with you. I love this game. I love the premise, the music, the characters. I just think the same artist as who did Traps and Treasures, and
it was great
again. Just full of charm. And I will say, having spent more time with this probably deserves to go higher up my list on reflection.
Yeah, it's up there. I'm not saying it's my most favourite one, but it almost was from everything on the list.
Yeah, definitely.
Got a lot out of it.
Cool. Right. Okay. So we go on to the next game. We're rattling through these. So now this one, I was again surprised you hadn't played this one, but it is Beavers. This was published by Grand Slam and developed by Arc Developments, and came out in 1991. And also later on maybe 1992, but later on the CD32, which is a version I personally played because it has a nice CD soundtrack and things. And this one is interesting. You play like a beaver, and you go around collecting the stars. You have to collect so many stars to progress in the level. You have you have a tail attack, but it's next to useless. And
I thought that was just me. Thank goodness for that.
Yeah, it's rubbish. It's too slow, isn't it? You can't really do it. So it's better to sort of like jump and avoid. But I just think it's a really cute, it's really cute, bright colour, visual style with music playing. It's addictive fun, although it has on the opening level, which is quite long actually, a forced scrolling platformer, which almost ruins it. I mean, it does have that addictive quality where you're like, I'm going to have one more go, but you lose so many attempts and lives. And it probably took me like a good half an hour to an hour to even get off the first level and restart several lives. But once you get past that level, and it is password is passworded. It turns into more of a traditional platforming fare, and I just think it's just a lot of fun, and I love all these sort of like enemy creatures like bears and later on Frankenstein beavers and things like that. It's just it's just one that I just enjoy with the music and the bright colours, really. But I mean, what about you? What was your take with this one?
Yeah, well, I love the intro to start off with. Now, I'm assuming then, because basically the Beavers are a rock band,
Yeah.
and their leader Jethro, I like Jethro Tull, and you see them at a gig playing on the stage at the beginning, but there's no music on the normal Amiga with that. It's just in silence. Even on YouTube, I checked in case it was just something the emulator was doing. I mean, am I right? Does it actually, should it be playing music? And I'm assuming it
I
does it on
think
the
so.
CD.
I get the feeling it's just very rushed. Yeah, so I just had a quick listen on the CD32 version. Basically, you have just music playing through the intro, so maybe they just ran out of space. So, but I mean, you know me, I tend not to look at the storyline, but basically, it's Beaver Mania has taken over. Clearly riffing on the Beatles, and I presume they get kidnapped or something.
A rival band, the Rabbits, because they come in with their Tommy guns, rat-a-tat-tat, and then drag everyone out. It's a nice, it's like cartoony, comical cutscene. It's quite cool. But you're right then, it goes on to that very first level. Now, graphically, I'm not saying it's the best graphics in the world, but they're not just passable either. It's kind of somewhere in between. I would give the sprites. Certainly the games before it have far better.
Yeah, it's quite childlike, the graphics, but there's some certain charm in the childlike nature, isn't it? But it's not like it's badly drawn or anything like that. It's just I think the choice of the really bright primary colours, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it's very good, very cartoony. A lot of the things are cool. I mean, the flying seagull animation is brilliant. Just the look on the bear's face, everything has character to it. That's the point. Chomping fish, even the stars, the charisma stars, because you've got to get your charisma level up to a certain point.
Well, you need to, because you can't finish the level. That's depressing when you get to the button. It's like,
so that first fixed screen level, I've never swore so many times playing that there's just so many bad jumps.
Yeah.
And you know what? I wasn't learning. I'd done the same mistake time and time again. I would land in water down below as if, for goodness sake, and then back to the beginning again. But you're right, there was something
just one more go,
about
isn't it? Yeah.
Just one more go. I mean, I can't even avoid, you know when you jump over the pipes and the boxing gloves come and try and fist you, right? It's you can't avoid them, and it knocks your energy down. It's blinking annoying, but get past that and the game opens up to quite a cool exploration-based platformer. Some of the routes, like on the first level, so you have to go underground and you have to look for the darker shaded bits of dirt, don't you, so you can access through the tunnels, just to, like, you'll find a ball that you can bounce on to jump to a higher height. And the idea is just to get through the level. There's some doorways you can go through as well, so it's not just, again, completely linear in that fashion. And there's obviously still collect the stars, but I think as the level goes on, they get better and better. So the game doesn't grab you from the outset. So if you're just going to fire this up and you get frustrated with it and you go, I'm not playing anymore, then you're missing out on some quality platforming later on.
That's kind of what I wanted to shout out with this, because you're right. A lot of people will do what, natural, which is just try for 5 minutes and see. And to be honest, a lot of that was what I did when I got the dodgy disc way back when. Was like, oh no, this not for me, kind of thing. And the million and other ones to play, but subsequently, I've gone back to it and just given it a little bit more time. I think when I was going through the CD32 library and giving it a little bit more time, and I thought this is not a out and out classic, but it's something about it which just draws you in, and it doesn't outstay its welcome. It's only about an hour long, not doing anything particularly different between the levels, but there's enough variety to the levels with sort of like snow bears and just characters. The enemy characters just look so cool, don't they? With like, they're all bear themed for the most part, with like
Pretty much,
the bears with the sunshades are my favourite, which is later on, and of course it is passworded, so you can at least
first level,
get past that first level exactly once you beat it. I just and the music, it just it just has the music was what kept me calm. That's what stopped me swearing, because it was like, yes, I'm died for the 100th time, but doobie doobie doo with the music playing. No, I quite enjoyed this one. Did review surprisingly well. Amiga Format gave it 80%, CU Amiga 78. They both shouted out that it was the humour and the animation. Both said it was too short.
Remember me off in the graphics as kind of Super Frog-like. It's probably the best way, in my eyes, to describe it anyway. That kind of...
I mean, it's done by the graphics done by John Harrison. He did. Do you remember Mickey Mouse, computer game on the Amiga? We've covered that in the past with Gremlin briefly, and he did R-Type 2 and things like that. So really good. And the programmer Julian Scott, he went on to do the not so good Predator 2 on the Amiga, but he also did Starsky and Hutch, which is a game on the PS2, isn't it? Where
PS2,
which I've got a real soft spot for Starsky and Hutch, particularly because fans, if you never played Starsky and Hutch, it's one of the few games, if you've got a light gun and a steering wheel, you can use all of that in the one game, which is just awesome. Having one person shooting as the other person's driving.
Actually, I just had a picture of you and your underplants doing both at the same time.
Yeah,
one
exactly.
hand's got the steering.
Putting on the fake moustache and the sunglasses. Yeah, that's it. In the underpants. Have you got a camera, Kingy? Have you been videoing?
I just know you well, mate.
No, I'm glad you like this one. Actually, out of all of them, I was probably the most worried with this one. Although there's one more that I probably was slightly more worried, because although I quite like it, I know it's a bit divisive. So I'm interested to see what you think of some of the others. But so for this one, you quite enjoyed for the most part.
Yeah, skip that first level, try it first, and just see what we're on about. I bet people just manage it in their first go. It's just us sort of crap at games,
people probably do, aren't they?
They're
good with it,
yeah. And then you will need to use that beaver tail on the later levels, even though it's useless. You just can't jump and avoid everyone. I'm afraid you will need to learn to use it.
Yeah, I mean, with the spinning thing, you've got to jump and spin, or don't be afraid if something's jumping on you to do the spin. But I think where it's easy to go wrong with it is you naturally assume that you go to the left or right of an enemy and then do the spin, because that's what you would normally do.
Right.
It just doesn't work, and you end up losing lives. So it's more of a jump if you can get the spin right. But even then, it's better to avoid the enemies than hit them. Such as the gameplay, really. Yeah. No, good one. Well, I'm interested. I'm glad you like that one, to a point anyway. So definitely one for our listeners to dive in, and we'd love to hear what you think as well.
Yeah, indeed.
Okay, well, this is another one that I'd be interested to know what you think of this one, because to be honest, it's one that comes to life more as a 4-player multiplayer.
Yeah.
It is base jumpers, so this was number 71 on my list. It came out in 1994 and published by Rasputin. And
Rasputin.
Yeah, exactly. And the music on the CD. Did you play the Amiga version or the CD?
Just the Amiga version, mate.
Okay, because I played the CD32 version, and it's got full blown classical music and operatic singing, which doesn't make any sense at all, but that's what it has. But do you want to describe it to our listeners? What you do in this one?
So it's a simple race to the top parkour game where you have to platform it and ladders and levels it all the way up to the top of the skyscraper. But as you alluded to there, it's more a multiplayer game where you race against friends to get to the top. And so think micro machines, like if you want, you can knock someone out the bottom of the screen and whatnot as you race up. Love the actual artwork in this game. There's quite a lot of detail on the levels. You've got your little guys with their checkered helmets on, their parachuting helmets on, and just the kind of details of the office blocks that you're climbing up and the security guards wandering about that you all have to avoid, or rolling TNT buckets. But equally, you get letters dropping. That took me, I was wondering what all the letters drop in were, so you can spell 3-letter words and that out of them as they fall down, and you get all different bonuses and combinations of things.
Because what all happens to score,
yeah. And once you get to the top of the building, you then descend, fall to the ground. You're on the outside of the building. But this is where equally the fun doesn't stop. So there's lots of dangerous, sharp objects, poles, ledges.
And of course, you can nudge your opponents, which really comes to its own. When
it becomes
evil
and vindictive. And I missed that. I knew exactly what I was missing out playing it in single player, because I knew this would be a game to play with mates, and the more the merrier. It'd be a fiendishly vengeful game that if you picked on someone, they're going to get you. So it's easy to die on the descent. That's the point. And there's limbs and blood squirting everywhere. And the idea is to be the first person down to the ground, even if both survive. You can push up and down to be closer to the bottom of the screen, but that comes with a risk or reward situation, because if you're close to the bottom, you can't really avoid the spikes or anything readily, you know what I mean? So you really need to know the levels. But I think
it doesn't matter if you. I mean, it's not that punishing when you get hit or anything, because it's just designed to slow you down slightly, which makes more sense when you play it as a multiplayer, really.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, because it's. I mean, you know, if you're playing single player, you're like, well, it's just delayed me a little bit, but what's the punishment really, isn't it? You know, I mean,
I died for coming down. You hit something on the way down and you die.
Oh, on the way down, that's
but on the way up. Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
On the way up, you just all it is you're right, a delay so your opponents can get ahead of you. In single player mode, there's almost it could have done with a game engine change that it was a different kind of game in single player,
or at least have computer controlled.
Yes,
opponents. Even in single player, you know, like your Chaos Engine style, wasn't it? Where yeah, that would be, you know, then you'd feel some of the excitement that you feel in multiplayer, because it's a real sort of like fun blast. Of course, it's difficult to, you need to sort of like play it on an Amiga. The CD32 obviously was, well, they tried to do it where you can all be, two people could be squidged around a controller, but it just doesn't really really work. But yeah, you get the right crowd of people. This is a really fun game. It's done by Aaron Fothergill, and he's the one who did you ever play Jet Strike?
Not
but
sure.
he went on to do certainly the PC port of Croc 2. I don't know if he was like the original, like part of the game design as well, but he also did for the PS1 Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. So, you know, he went on to pretty big games really in the big scheme of things. But yeah, this I just thought, this was very much a sort of indie release.
So you weren't sure if it'd take to this because it really would have, it's more multiplayer, or do you think it,
yeah. I mean, there was actually another one which I thought you would, you wouldn't get on with. In my head, I've got what I consider the ones that I thought you would love the most. So it'd be interesting. I'll do a comparison. So at the end, I'll say what order I think you would have chosen, and then let's see how wrong I am.
Yeah.
Cool. Right. Okay. Yeah. I mean, again, this reviewed pretty well. 75%, 77%. Amiga format and CU Amiga. Yeah, they mostly say that it's a little unrefined, but it's a really fun game. That was essentially the gist of what they were saying. So that sounds like another one that you enjoyed to a point, at least. So shall we go on to the next one?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this was the one that I was most worried about because I think it's a difficult game. As polished as it is, it's a difficult game to sort of get into gameplay wise. It is Titus the Fox. Came on my list. It was number 66, so I rate it quite highly. But it came out in 1993 and published and developed by Titus, and of course, this is the mascot of Titus. Really, this is the game. Originally, it was a French game, and they sort of redid the graphics to incorporate their mascot, and I think it's quite fun. I love the graphics, and I've always been a fan of because I loved Prehistoric. I really love that game by Titus, and this is done by the same team. So yeah, I really had a lot of love for this one, but I'm mindful a lot of people don't. So I'm curious with this one. Do you want to describe it a little bit more to our listeners, and then hear what you see?
Yeah, this is the rescue the stolen, kidnapped girlfriend type story. She's been dragged over to the other side of the Sahara Desert, so this is why it is the adventures or to Marrakesh and back. So you're over Morocco and that. So you've kind of got a Middle Eastern theme, especially elements in the music goes down that route as well. So I thought musically very good, visually really impressive, to be honest. I think it's a really fantastic, the kind of platformer that again I would be lured towards. I think there's a lot of detail, lots of characterization going on, and the muscly bad guys or the dogs, just lots of things going on. I mean, it's weird. We're saying we're in Marrakesh, and a lot of the levels are just suburban levels. That you don't get a kind of east.
Well, it's his journey to Marrakesh,
and eventually you get the eastern feel. There's into the desert and temples and all the rest, and some sort of stereotypes of the rope ladder guys floating in the air, spitting probably I'm guessing tobacco at you, or there's scorpions and things like that. So anyway, graphically absolutely brilliant, right? But the game has a big problem, but it was solved as well.
Yes.
The game runs far too fast. It is, right, so therefore you just tap the joystick and you're falling off an edge. And I was like, for goodness sake, this is ridiculous. I was going, fuck, accidentally put the clock speeds up on the emulator for us. No. Quickly looked on YouTube, it's playing it there. How can anyone play this game? It's not fluid at that speed. It's just it feels like it's on turbo, and there's something majorly wrong with it. And so I went, this is shite. I'm really struggling getting the fiddly platforming bits. I can't get anywhere. So went off it. Huff. That's it, Drisky. I've chosen a game that I like to look off, but it doesn't play very good. Then I went online and read, someone says, press F10 on your keyboard. You press F10 on the keyboard and it slows the game down because it plays at a different frequency. And it is completely and utterly playable. And because of that, it's fantastic. I absolutely love it. I've been playing this most of the afternoon.
Oh, wow, that's
it's up
good,
there with one of my favourites on the list now, simply because it's slowed down is playable. I think there's lots of good challenging things going on each of the levels. Similar to Rolling Ronny, you'll reach, if you just stay in the bottom level and run to the far end, you'll just hit dead ends. So you need to, especially as the levels progress, so you'll have to go up, girder frames and construction likes of buildings and get back down again, leap across. And then there's boss fights as well where you can, pick up balls to throw at them. So there's a lot of interaction going on. And I think, again, there's a great variety in the levels with different things going on that I just love and adore. It's an absolute delight playing this.
Oh, I'm glad, because I really enjoy this one. That's why it's so high up my list. But I know a lot of people struggle with. But you're right. A lot of it is being able to lower that speed, isn't it? It's something I actually didn't know myself.
You've been playing it all.
Really. I've been playing it. Well, on the Amiga, I swear on the Amiga it didn't run as fast as what I was playing here.
Yeah,
so maybe,
well, it was weird. It was on Lemon Amiga. That's where I saw someone's tip, because they were all commenting on the fact of how fast the game run. It's not enjoyable at that speed. It doesn't have to rivaling Sonic the Hedgehog or something. It just doesn't work at that speed. It just needs to be, reeled back a little, and therefore you can get to the edge of a platform to leap onto the next without just falling off, because you've just kept your finger on the...
Yeah, right. I tell you what it is. This is why. So, on the... I'm just looking at the manual, though. It's all in French or German. There isn't like an English version. But, the toggle, which would be the /, which probably would be F10 on the modern thing, is the switch between 50 hertz and 60 hertz. But of course, if I played it on the Amiga, it would naturally go to 50 hertz. It's emulation. It's gone for 60 hertz, which is probably explains.
And not just that.
Yeah.
10 more hertz then in that, it just makes it.
Because I just thought it was me like going back to it, because I just thought it was me getting old and...
Well, seriously, when you get a chance, right, when we come off this, fire it up and give it a go at the slowest. You might go, that's too bloody slow, that's for wimps, but you've been playing hard.
Yeah, getting with it. No, I do remember it being slower. I just put it down to poor memory and older. But no, this is... I'm glad you've... have the same love, because when I was playing it I was thinking, oh dear, maybe my memories is not as good as it once was.
No, there's nothing wrong with the game. I think the level designs
it's one of those
good.
where it's been upped, the speed's been upped, isn't it, because of 60 hertz, and emulation will naturally choose 60 hertz. But so that's a good tip. F10 is it on the modern
F10, under emulation.
I really like it, and I love that. As I say, another one that I really enjoy is, and a lot of people don't. It's done by the same people, which is Prehistoric on the Amiga. I just find that this is probably the better game in some ways, because it's more complex. But I think I might have put Prehistoric even higher on my list, because I just love that game so much. But no, this is good. This is good. So I feel that was the one I was most worried about, if I'm honest.
Oh no, yeah, nothing.
It
to worry
reviewed
about
well
that
back
one.
in the day, 76%, 74%. Saying that it's full of character and nice variety was basically what they said. CU Amiga and things like Amiga Joker and etc. So no, I'm glad you like that. Okay, we're on the penultimate game then.
You will never defeat my enemy.
Okay, so this is an interesting one. I've chosen Assassin, but the special edition. Now, partly... So let's give a little bit of history with this. The special edition came out in 1994. It's done by Team 17 and developer Psionic, and the guys behind... they did like Bubble Bubble on the Amiga and a variety of home ports. I think the Ghouls and Ghosts from memory as well. Yeah, essentially, Team 17 were really well known for... They would release a game on full price, and then they would listen to lots of feedback from people. And rather than just re-release on budget the same game, they would do a special edition, which normally would be just like add levels or a couple of things here and there, or smooth the difficulty spike, whatever negatively was said. But for whatever reason, on the special edition of Assassin, they totally changed the game round. So the original was very much a Strider style game, wasn't it, where you had a boomerang and you held it at the enemies. It was pretty good. On the special edition, they decided to completely redraw the character. This time he has like arm las cannon, so it's a bit more easier than the boomerang, and completely dropped the first level in the woods, and sort of made it in underground complexes and made it just a bit easier to play. It became quite divisive even back in the day. People really hated that they changed it around. Certainly a lot of the reviewers, they found that some of the reviewers, although they always had ego trips, didn't they, saying, oh, they've made it too easy. They really relished and sort of showing off at every turn their gaming prowess. So I was quite surprised. So just to ask you, was this one that you never played Assassin, the original game, or Assassin?
No, never played neither. No,
I'm really surprised with that, because I know what a fan of Team 17 you are. So I was quite surprised with that. Yeah, so
huge fan. I never saw it back in the day at all, and therefore just slipped me by as a game that I'm unfamiliar with, which is a pleasant surprise, because obviously I had to fire both up to compare. Yeah. I knew I needed to do that, even though we're speaking about the second one. I really like the jungle level as an approach level to the industrial enemy base, which you've got on the first one. I thought it was really good.
Gorgeous,
it looks,
doesn't it?
Bionic Commando, like, the look of the guy in the original one just looks like he's been ripped from Double Dragon. He's in his jumpsuit ready to beat people up. So you've got a more futuristic look of the fella in the second game. But yeah, I mean, to have this Strider-like game that you can cling on to ceilings, cling on to beams and all the rest, and then swing up onto them from below is quite a fantastic mechanic. Really enjoying it. Can be a little fiddly, I think.
But sometimes getting up the platforms takes a little bit.
Yeah. I think the only thing that is weak in this game would have had more atmosphere if it had an in-game tune. I think it needed it. I won't always say that for every game, because you shouldn't compare a game on what it's not, if you see what I mean. But this one just could have done with a cool futuristic
tune. It would be amazing, particularly Team 17. You'd imagine the tunes. And of course,
I kind of hear it. Yeah. I kind of hear it in my mind's eye.
It's kind of a shame that they never did like a CD32 version of this.
Because when you get into where the rockets are stored in the enemy base, all you hear is quite an annoying, rocket booster roar sound that I don't like. It's actually quite distracting.
Yeah.
I don't think the 100% mastered the grabbing on above you function in the game design here. There's bits where you can cling above you and you just don't need to. You just run along the ground. It's a bit.
Yeah.
I think level design's slightly weaker. Visually impressive though, and the end of the level, it's not obvious until you get to it, and it just suddenly ends the level without much. Just a level complete, and it's like, oh right, I've got to the end. How did I manage that? So the route and direction you need to take
Isn't clear, yeah.
isn't clear. You just get there and go, oh, I did choose the right way. Well done me. And then it's on to the next level. But I think, yet again, the industrialised look right throughout is very fitting from the game, and it doesn't stray too much from those kind of visuals. It gets a more Giger-like later on with sort of, twisted biomess and things like that just lying about, and especially the kind of end of level boss fights that you need to do. It really does have quite a closeness to an arcade feel. This feels more like an arcade game than any of the other games that I've played. And the other ones were just platformers, but this purely is taking inspiration from the.
It's very much Strider, wasn't it?
It is, yeah. And it's really it's an admirable attempt at making a Strider-like game.
Yeah, because it was god awful, the official Strider on the Amiga. So this is what Team 17 tried to do again in the game, was prove that if you did it for the Amiga and you weren't doing like some dodgy knockoff Atari ST port, and put some real love and care into it, you could do stuff like this. And that's what I've always appreciated with Team 17, that what they could do. No, 100%, yeah. No, I mean, it's a little clunky, isn't it, in places, and but as I say, you've got to put it in the context of where this was, which is like people loved and were really jealous of Strider on the Mega Drive. And of course the arcades, and this was as close as we got to it. And there was a lot of vitriol against the budget release, the special edition. But one of the reasons I wanted to shout out, because I get what they were trying to do. It is a more smoothed out in terms of level design, gameplay wise. It sort of leads you into it a little bit better.
I could not get past, when on the first one, if one of the guard dogs grabbed onto you, I couldn't shake it off. I didn't know what to do, so I just died. And it was like,
yeah.
So the first level was infuriatingly difficult. It's like, oh, for goodness sake. And there was a lot of leaps of faith on the first one as well.
Yeah.
So it needed to be fixed.
It was very brutal. But I'm with you. I mean, despite the difficulty of the game, that opening level, it does look beautiful, and it does give that Bionic Commando vibes. So, yeah, I mean, as I say, the original game, this was really highly rated. I mean, like the one gave it 92%,
wow,
80% Amiga Action, but really well beloved. But for the special edition, it really was derided. I mean, Amiga format 74%, CU Amiga 72%. They just pretty much universally disliked the changes that have been made.
But it's out in budget as well, so let's celebrate. You've got two versions to play, one at a cheaper price.
Exactly. I guess they were just saying, whilst they appreciated some of the tweaks here and there, they just didn't like the redesign of the character, and I guess it made it a totally different game. But for me, I mean, I hated the boomerang because it's such a
it was shite.
Annoying
it was shite.
Weapon. So the las cannon was well appreciated.
One of the best touches that I really liked is in one of the later levels, you get the sort of skeletal robots that appear, right? When they fire at you, so they're all grey and very almost bas relief like, but when they fire their gun at you, the flare from the gun illuminates just the front section of them in different shades of fire. It looks as such a subtle and really cool touch. It'll probably go unnoticed by name how many games do that. When the character shoots at you, you see some dynamic change to their look just because they're firing the gun. You don't. It's really, really smart and really clever.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think it's an enjoyable game. As I say, I'm quite surprised I hadn't played it before, but glad you at least got to give it a go. And it sounds like you didn't. I was worried in terms of nostalgia. If you don't have the nostalgic memories of this game, that you had struggled with it. But it sounds like you thought it was all right. I mean,
it takes me back.
Wasn't, yeah.
You do get a kind of nostalgia from these games that I done a lot of thinking, just where I used to play the Amiga when I lived with my parents, and just thinking back to that time, and you get in that mindset, and you start getting something from the game. One, I just like games anyway. It's still my favourite era. The 8-bit and 16-bit eras are just where it is for me more than anything else. And to get a new game that you enjoy playing is just a bonus. And a new game on the Amiga that I've never played. Brilliant. Fantastic.
Oh, good. Well, let's see if you liked the last game. Let's see what you think of it. And it is called Yo! Joe. Yo Joe. And this is done by Hudson Soft and developed by Scipio. Yes, the same team that did Hagar the Horrible and on the Amiga. And I personally think this is a really forgotten about platformer. I think it's a really good game personally. I'm interested to know what you think, but I mean, do you want to describe it to our listeners what it's all about?
Yeah, so you can play a couple of graffiti artists in the game, right? Joe and Nat, basically. Now you can choose, or is it only in 2-player mode? I'm just trying to think now.
Yeah, 2-player
mode, that's right, I thought.
Yeah.
Because it's fire that went straight into it. So they're graffiti artists, so they're trying to escape the police in New York, and for whatever reason, they come across a mysterious castle, and this is where then they basically have to survive this terrible, scary, ghostly mansion, and escape its clutches, basically. And it's really charming. The best way I could describe this and the type of platform game that it is very Blagger-esque in a 16-bit way. I don't know if that's a good way to describe it, Paul, but simply it's one big massive playfield, scrolling playfield, where there's just so much platforming of different styles going on, very much parkour-like. You also have to swim, pick up nunchucks, whack the characters and all the rest. I mean, the animations in this are absolutely superb, aren't they? I mean, your main character's very sort of Elvis-like, isn't he?
Elvis, yeah, that's basically it. Because I don't bother ever reading the description, I just assume like Elvis character goes to a haunted castle. That's basically
all you need to know. But it's just it's condensed. There is so much platform goodness. So if you like your platform games, and it's not just everybody tried to copy the Mario left to right scroller by this point. This game isn't like that. It's just getting everywhere.
Doing its own thing, isn't it?
It's doing its own thing with stunning visuals, great sound effects, and the music's cool. I mean, look at I love the vampires do look like the grandfather vampire on the Munsters, and how he transforms into the bat is a brilliant piece of animation, and he's flying towards you. It's just absolutely fantastic.
Just so many sort of like so many sort of cool little touches to this one. It's like even like you can replenish your energy by having a shower in certain senses.
Yes, that's right. It's cool.
It's just, but you're right. It's just so there's so much sort of platforming that you can do. I love the fact that you can pick up different weapons. So that obviously gives you like samurai sword. We can pick up a big pipe, and you can sort of like switch between them as you pull down on the joystick and press fire. I just. It's one that I don't think gets enough love, personally, this one, and that's why I was very keen and put it so high on my personal top 100. But I think it deserves it even more, having played it even more for this episode. This certainly, spoiler alert, was my favourite of the evening, I think. It just kept on going back to it again and again. I mean, it's got clunky elements where sometimes it's difficult to attack the enemy without getting like hurt. Yeah. Which is a little frustrating, but it sort of more than makes up for it in a million other ways, and the charm and technical wizardry really going on as well.
I think so. I'm not 100% convinced with the intermission bonus level when you're flying between the different areas and you're on the pterodactyl-like thing. It just then turns into a kind of fly and shoot 'em up, dodge the bombs kind of thing, and I don't think the game really needs that. It breaks up the continuity of platform, and that's my own personal opinion.
Oh no, I agree, but they tried that on quite a few.
They did. That's nothing unique
just to try and give variety.
Yeah, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And I enjoyed. The trouble is, the platforming levels are so enjoyable that you don't want them to stop. That's the point, because then you get to the next level, you're on more an Egyptian pyramid, the next one, and it just looks fantastic. So it moves away from the haunted house, and still haunted. It's just different haunted abodes. The mummy animation is superb. Them coming out their coffins, or sarcophagi. The background art is incredible as well. There's so much detail that it can go unnoticed, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, and this is what I kind of like with this one. It's just there is such variety to all the levels, and yes, it's like rock hard in a lot of ways, as a lot of these like Amiga platformers were, where they sort of they were quite punishing because they were like developed by small teams that had played it to death, and thus knew every. They could rattle through it, so they assumed everybody else could. But I mean, it's one that I think a lot of our listeners may not have ever heard of as well. This and Traps and Treasures, I think there's a good chance that most people have not heard it. Right. And I think that's why I was so glad to sort of shout it out, and was so happy when you chose this one in particular.
Cool. Well, instantly I liked the look of it, because obviously I just watched what you were saying about it and it's like, that sounds really. I mean, you were very passionate in your words about it, and I went, this really stands out for me. I do think it peters out towards the later levels when you go back on the underground train, and then you're doing all the platforming in New York, and I get it. The game needs to go back to where you've been on the run from, but I really like the sort of spooky, Halloweeny monster locations. That's where the game's at its strongest and best.
But at least you get a good chunk of that before you get.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Levels, but you're right. Yeah, you're absolutely right. But it does, like the above ground of the New York cities looks really cool, because you've got all the graffiti and the and like the skyline. But you're right, it's they were definitely running out of ideas at that point, I think.
It just feels like, even though it's the same mechanic where, like, I forgot to mention, when you can jump to the edge of the platforms and his hands grab and he hoists himself up, it's a great animation, that.
It's basically like you're sort of like a flashback, isn't it, sort of animation.
I like that. Good description.
Or Prince Persia.
Yeah, but whereas then in the New York scene, it is the stereotypical building site, and it's just I-beams and girders basically, and it's a lot more sparse than the earlier levels, which was just filled with intense goodness that it's like these are just great. So yeah, it's a shame about that, but what a fantastic game, mate. Really, really enjoy this.
I'm glad you enjoyed this one. Yeah, I'm very much the same way. And if anything, if I've got more of our listeners to play Traps and Treasures and Yojo in particular, I will be a happy boy indeed. So because I think they just never get the love that they deserve.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. And you know, did likewise this did review quite well back in the day, 78% on CU Amiga. Amiga Power, very grumpy magazine, gave it 80%. So you know, it was quite well loved, but it's just, I don't think it sold very well purely because it was another one where it didn't really get, you know, Hudson Soft didn't really push the advertising
Right.
or as much as perhaps they should have, and you know, therefore I think I've never seen it actually in the wild in terms of the box personally. It's quite a difficult one, I think, to track down. Lovely. Well, they are the 7 games. So I'm gonna have a guess at what you chose.
Let's see what you think then,
and let's see how close we are. So for me, I think number 1 you would have chosen Yojo.
Yes, definitely. You got that right.
Number
there.
2, my original thinking was Traps and Treasures, but I've realised now it's probably Rolling Ronny would be your number 2.
Yep.
Yeah. Number 3, Traps and Treasures.
Nope.
Oh, okay. Number 3, Titus the Fox, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. Number 4, Traps and Treasures.
Yeah.
Number 5, I'm going to go for Beavers.
No.
No. Base Jumpers.
Nope.
Okay, it's got to be Assassin then.
Yeah.
And then number 6, I'm going to assume you choose Beavers.
Nope.
Oh, Base Jumpers. Okay,
Base
really.
Jumpers.
Beavers was the weakest one for you then.
Yeah,
Number
nothing
7.
wrong with it.
Yeah,
Just
just
after
that
straight-
opening level broke
The
you,
opening
didn't
level
it?
broke it. Yeah, absolutely. Broke me.
Yeah.
Inventing new swearing words for that. So yeah, that well done. You pretty much guessed it there.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I think, even though I've obviously chose my list in terms of the top 100, but spending extra time with it, I think Yojo is still number 1, which I had the highest on my list. For me, Traps and Treasures, I really fell in love with. I think that would become number 2 now on my list, whether I had it in the lowest. Then probably, well, I still love my Titus the Fox. And I'm going to love it even more if now I know how you can slow it down a bit. So, as I see we've got memories. And then probably Rolling Ronny, and then Beavers. I always love Beavers. Base Jumpers is a great game, but you need the multiplayer.
Yeah, I got that, but
Yeah,
I did.
it feels
I did.
quite hollow.
I like the feel. I like the feel of it though. I was like, oh, I could really enjoy this.
Yeah, for me, probably when I'm playing them all in depth, and I think a lot of it is just the sort of platforming games I like. Assassin's probably more the weakest. You know, spending more time with it, the level design wasn't there as much as I thought when I chose the top 100 list. You know, once you get past the first few levels, it weakens and quite samey.
Yeah.
But no, it's. I'm glad that we got to shout out some Amiga classics, because there are like hundreds and hundreds. Well, nay, thousands of Amiga games, really, isn't there? And it's an insane amount of games, and more coming out every other day. You know, modern indie games. But yeah, hopefully, you know, to our listeners, you know, if you try some of these games and like it, you know, please, you know, have a listen through the video version of the top 100, because, well, as I say, the highest of the ones that Kingy hadn't played and had chosen was number 35. So there's an awful lot of games even above that were worthy.
Oh yeah,
of a
I think
play.
it's
and all around these, because I wasn't that caught up with the number where it appeared in the list. If I'm honest, it was more shouting out 100 amazing games worth your time.
I think your numbers that were higher up your charts, I was simply had played them and familiar with them.
Yeah,
so,
of course.
I was looking for the ones, right, I'll stop right there.
Yeah.
What's this game? Why haven't I known about this? Or
And that's why I wanted to do like top 100, which I know is a crazy amount of games to cover, but because, if you choose the top 20, it's always going to be the ones that everybody knows typically. Whether if you go to top 100, sometimes it's catching those games that people don't know.
yeah,
What's amazing is that, I could have easily gone up to top 200. That's how prolific the
easily.
Amiga library is. And these are just platformers. These aren't just like every genre.
Yeah, I mean, there's other games on your top 100 I wasn't familiar with, like Naughty Ones and Jim Power. I hadn't played them. So it was like, all right. But I had to draw the line in the sand with the ones that
we
really,
could always re-look another time, can't we, down the line.
It was good fun. I really enjoyed that. It was good to reconnect with the and the thing is now, because I've gotten into playing the Amiga, I'm going to go into a few of my comfortable slippers games for it as well now, simply because I'm in that mindset now. So thanks for
definitely
reconnecting me with the Amiga again. I sometimes just neglect it for some silly reason.
Yeah, well, and actually that's something I should have said at the top of this. The top 100 list, although the video version that I did, when we did the Amiga top 50 and I did those double pack books.
Yes.
Yeah, so they're free. We'll put them in the show notes to remind people with them. But basically, because there was so limited of what we could cover in our top 50 Amiga games, even though we were talking about all the sequels and things, at the back of the book, I tried to give wider top hundreds and things like that. Basically, that video of the top 100 is me reading out what I'd put in the back of the book for the Amiga top 100 platform games. So I guess what I'm saying is, at some point I'll try and do some of the lists that I did in the back of the book, but if you wanted to sort of dive in and explore some of the other lists, they're all on that free PDF in book 2 at the back of the book of all the different genres. So
it's top work, mate. Top work.
Yeah, want to see racing games or what have you. But I do, hopefully, I'm slowly rolling up my list. I'm really enjoying doing these top 50s or top 40s.
They're great to watch. I enjoy them.
Yeah.
When it's late at night, and if, like my wife, she works back shifts and night shifts, so there's nights I'm just in bed myself, and they go, right, well, what do I want to watch? Rather than the shows we watch together. And these are perfect to put myself to sleep. No, that's not at all. I had to say that. No, they're perfect to de-wind to.
Yeah,
they're perfect to de-wind to, and
very soothing, lulls you into sleep. Yeah. The droning voice. Yeah. Actually, it was funny. Just before this, I thought, I've got an hour. The girls had all decided to have a siesta. A kip, and I thought, well, I've written up the script because the next top 50 list that I want to do is the Mega CD, because I did the Master System, Mega Drive, and then do the Mega CD, and I was reading it out and got near the end of reading out the script, and then Mira, my granddaughter, came bustling in, and she spent the next sort of I was basically looking after her for about an hour with her shouting in the mic at the top of her lungs, and then I was playing it back and she thought it was the most hilarious thing ever. So I'm amazed this microphone actually survived the onslaught, to be fair, because it's had a screaming 5-year-old shouting into the mic in true heavy metal fashion. Awesome. Well, thanks, boys and girls. Hope you enjoyed the episode, and as always, please dive in and try some of these games. That's what it's all about, really. It's a community in a club. We have Discord that everybody all shouts out. And one of the greatest sort of like pleasures with all of this is all the excited chatting about these games and what people thought about them. And because that's what it's all about. That's the way to think of it. It's a free podcast / community / club of people, like-minded souls that love old games and, you know, dive in and play. Because I've got to be honest, modern gaming personally leaves me cold, and I think it leaves a lot of people cold.
Does indeed, yeah.
I keep going back to the... Well, in fairness, indie games I still love. Indie games is an amazing... Yeah, but AAA space, I think it needs to work out where it's going wrong, in my opinion. Cause it's,
I couldn't agree more. Spending too much big budgets on soulless games that are almost disposable in the mindset of the people that are playing them, and it's just occasionally there's a gem, but I always try them, and it's like, why am I doing this? Why am I lucky? You've got things like Game Pass, and you can just fire it up, and you're not actually spending 50 quid on these games.
Well, I think there's a lesson to be learned. Astrobot, I think it had about 30 people, and only costs like a couple of $1 million.
Yes, it's meant to be one of the finest platformers of its generation.
And it's like, yeah, exactly. Game of the year. I think there's a lesson there that you don't need like hundreds and hundreds of people designing doorknobs and and God knows what else. Yeah. It's all about the gameplay, and I think AAA space has lost sight of that personally. But how excited! Sorry, just to add at the end, did you see the trailer for Terminator No Fate?
That looks fantastic, doesn't it?
Oh, amazing! I mean, it's done by the guys that did Xenocrisis, which is another amazing indie title, and of course it has Henk Nierburg, who also did Xenocrisis, and Flink, and all the other great games that we've covered over the years, like Adventures Lomax, Lionheart. One of the best pixel artists of all time, in my opinion. Obviously, started on the Amiga and went on. And, I mean, just based on the trailer, it looks absolutely stunning.
Pixel art gets me every time, Paul. That's where it is for me. And I've always said that. You get modern games that are hand-drawn or vector art. It just doesn't look the same as... And I know sprites came from a necessity because they lack of memory, and they're built up as small blocks. But
it's hand-drawn, it doesn't feel right, does it, when it's vector? I mean, unless it's... Yeah, with characters, it doesn't feel right. It's like, I've never bothered buying that Ghost... Is it Ghouls and Ghosts or Ghosts and Goblins? You know, they remastered it recently.
Yeah.
And the same with, like...
well, Dragon's Trap's a good example of that. Beautiful modern graphics. Now, I bought that, and they look great, but I end up just reverting back. You know, you can press the button and it morphs back to the original look.
At least you could do that. At least that was something you could do.
Yeah, like Monkey Island, especially. You know, the new Monkey Island ones have all got that, and you can jump between the pixel art and the modern thing. I'm just a sucker for pixels. Pixels look great, and I always will love that kind of artwork. No,
I'm the same way, Jap, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners are. I think there's definitely a strong correlation between retro lovers and love of pixel art
and chiptunes as well.
And chiptunes as well, yeah. But that's why the indie space is so amazing. Really, it's
what a lifeline it is for the likes of you and me and everyone else.
It is. Although I am trying to stop myself because I keep buying all these games because I nearly did another massive purchase on the latest Steam and Switch sale, and I'm like, but I never get round to playing half of these games because I'm so busy with, admittedly the podcast or going off to Retro Realms. Retro Realms is swallowing a lot of my time for all the right reasons, because it's so easy for me to hop and go to an arcade and play these games and stuff.
That's what you love. Whatever way it is, you're still playing old games. But you're right, I'm the same between doing the podcast, doing Crash, and then Family Life. The actual games you buy, you know, they're far and few between when you get a chance to really spend quite a bit of time with them beyond the initial, I'll fire it up, oh, I really like this, right, okay, and then all of a sudden you've uninstalled it because you've forgotten what you were doing in it. I'll put it on when I'm really going to play it, and then you just don't. It's silly. Need to make the time.
Yeah, no, I'm exactly the way. And my trouble as well is because I tend to like playing on the big screen, like in the main TV. But my missus really doesn't like gaming, so she never says anything, but I can feel her passive aggressively swiping her phone in boredom, and it encourages me to drop it. Anyway, boys and girls, sorry for that last minute rant there, but you know how we roll. So until next time, keep it retro, and please, subscribe. Enjoy the audio, but also, reach out and listen to our videos as well. I know it's a different market, really, I hate the term market, but different. I understand that people like, they listening as a sort of like, walking the dog or going for walks, and both serve a purpose. But there are these extra videos as well as the podcast. And also, I think seeing the game as well does give a lot of interest. It's a good reference point. I know a lot of our listeners now listen on the audio version, but then they quickly skip through the video version just to get a sense of the actual games we're talking about. Okay, well, until next time, keep it retro.
Bye.